Alright, so you and your homeboy are just chilling, minding your business, the vibes are vibing, then suddenly you get this weird sensation, like somebody just hit pause on reality. Everything goes quiet. The air feels heavy. Then, boom, everything fades to black. You slowly open your eyes. You're lying on one of those inflatable blue mattresses that everybody seemed to own back in the day. You blink, and everything feels off. You sit up. The room is covered in posters. A giant Justin Timberlake poster, a Destiny's Child one, an Eminem one. There's a faded Spider-Man poster with Tobey Maguire swinging across New York. You got one of those bubbling lava lamps glowing in the corner. There's a chunky silver CD player sitting on the dresser. You got a stack of burned CDs with Summer Mix written on them in Sharpie. There's a pile of PlayStation 2 magazines. And Nokia 3310 is charging on the floor. You look over, your homeboy's there with you, still asleep, snoring away. You start nudging him like, yo, nothing. You're like, bro, still nothing. You shove him a little harder, like, yo. He opens one eye, like, ouch, man, what? You're like, hey, listen, I know this is gonna sound weird, but I think we traveled back in time, fam. He's like, you're like, nah, bro, for real, look around. He like rubs his eyes, you know what I'm saying? He's like, yo, what you wearing? What am I wearing? You both stand up, you catch your reflection in the mirror, and it's like, hold up. You know, you got glossy lips, a tiny butterfly clip holding your fringe back, a cropped denim jacket, low-rise boot-cut jeans, a little spaghetti strap top, chunky silver jewelry. Oh, yeah, for my male viewers, you are a girl in this scenario. I'll give you a second, okay? Let it sink in. Go on, look down. Yeah, go ahead. Give the melons a little squeeze, you know, for scientific purposes. Easy, okay? Your homeboy's literally standing right there. Don't make it weird. You and your homeboy is kind of like a platonic thing. I mean, y'all perfect for each other, but the timing's just never been right. You know, you're dating someone, he's dating somebody. Y'all just play too much. All right, so you switch on the radio. A smooth female voice fills the room. The nostalgia hits you. You've definitely heard this song before. You nod along for a second. Then you change stations. Different presenter, different vibe, different radio station, same voice, same singer on a different joint. You step out into the hallway. Immediately you hear shouting, not angry shouting, video game shouting. You crack open a bedroom door. Two teenage boys are sitting about 6 inches away from one of those massive chunky CRT televisions. Wired controllers stretched across the carpet. Your homeboy points at the screen like, oh, sick. The boys don't even turn around. One of them goes, wanna play? Winner stays on. Your homeboy's like, yeah? You head downstairs. The smell of toast hits you halfway down. The family's computer's making those weird dial-up noises from the corner of the dining room. You make your way into the living room. MTV's on. You sit down. Same familiar voice. You watch the music video. You remember this. You catch yourself singing along. Your homeboy walks in. He picks up the remote. He flicks over to BET. Different music video. Different joint. This one has a rapper on the verse, but on the hook, same singer. He slowly puts down the remote, looks at the TV, looks at you, looks at the TV, and then he goes, yo, who actually is this chick? Alright, so in today's episode of Give Them Their Flowers, we're shining a spotlight on the one, the only Ashanti. And in order to do that, we gotta take it back. October 13, 1980, Glen Clove, New York. Ken K. Thomas Douglas, a former singer, and Tina Douglas, a former dance teacher, had their first child, a beautiful baby girl they named Ashanti Shakoya, after the Ashanti Empire in Ghana. Lil Ashanti grew up soaking in the musical Whitney Houston, Mary J. Blige, Mariah Carey, and Ella Fitzgerald. falling in love with the vocals and lyrics. On Ashanti's 12th birthday, Mary J. Blige dropped the song Reminisce. Ashanti was listening to this new record, singing along to it, harmonizing with Mary J. Blige. Ashanti's mom happened to walk in, and she was blown away by how talented the kid was. She went all in, supporting her and encouraging her to pursue music. Ashanti started writing songs, right? And as a teenager, she would perform wherever she could, at little festivals, at talent shows. She put herself out there. She even did up some acting joints. Ashanti didn't have one of those overnight success stories. Nah, she got bare rejections. And then at 14 years old, she got what seemed to be her big break. Somebody at Bad Boy Records noticed how talented she was. So they set up a meeting, and this nervous 14-year-old girl full of hope, ambition, and passion, she stood in front of P. Diddy and the notorious B.I.G. and she sang a Mary J. Blige joint, putting her heart and soul into it. They were so impressed that she got offered a development deal, like almost on the spot. But shout out to her and her family, right? Shout out to them, because they actually read the contract and they were like, nah, this ain't it. She did get signed though to Jive Records. The Jive Records, the same record label that had helped blow up the careers of Usher, Aaliyah, Britney Spears. It was crazy. But the label, they didn't believe in her pen game enough. They didn't believe in her pen game enough to let her write her own songs. And for Ashanti, who'd been writing since she was 12, all she wanted was the opportunity to show what she could do. Show how she could blend hip-hop and soul with big catchy hooks and emotional storytelling. She knew she had it in her, but the label, they were like, nah. They wanted her to work on the joints they had. Joints that had more of a pop sound. They wanted to market her as a Britney Spears type pop artist. And Ashanti was like, look, I have more of that urban R&B edge, and we gotta include that in the music. They just weren't seeing eye to eye, man. They weren't on the same level, so they parted ways. The same thing happened over at Epic Records. So here she is, man, back at square one. Instead of quitting, though, doing up a plan B, Ashanti kept rocking up at clubs and spots all across New York, performing, showcasing what she could do night after night, proving that she could entertain a crowd, proving that she could get him to sing along with her. It was a rough time for a girl. Like, imagine knowing without a shadow of a doubt what your purpose on this planet is. Knowing what you were meant to be. You know you've got it. Your mom knows you've got it. Everybody who hears you sing is like, this girl's special. She got something about her. But every record label keeps saying, nah, okay? Imagine getting close over and over again. Almost getting signed. Almost released. Almost. And it didn't help that in 2001, R&B, hip-hop, and pop were merging in like a really interesting way and dominating pop culture, topping the charts. You had Alicia Keys doing bits with heartfelt lyrics, combining a piano-driven ballad with hip-hop sensibilities on her debut single, Falling. You had Casey and JoJo crushing it with All My Life. You had Destiny's Child, Lenny Kravitz, Janet Jackson. Ashanti was watching all of this, knowing fully well that she could do what they were doing, knowing that her sound, her style of writing was a perfect fit for the era. All she had to do was get artists, producers, managers, people who were actually making moves at the time to notice her. So she went to the spots where the rappers and singers would kick it. She went to Murder Inc. studios on the regular, hoping she would get noticed. And it worked. Irv Gotti, the co-founder of Murder Inc. Records, was like, hey, cook up some hooks for some of the rappers on the label. She was like, I bet. And she jumped on everything. She did up some background vocals for a Big Pun joint. She did some bits on Cadillac Tar's singles. She appeared on the Fast and the Furious soundtrack. Homegirl was putting in work. And she was getting a little frustrated, right? Because she was mostly in the background. Heck, on J-Lo's I'm Real, she's literally in the background, doing up background vocals. Then on Ain't It Funny, which she helped write, she's in the background in the music video. But she kept grinding, kept pushing, kept doing up features. And it paid off. It paid off when Fat Joe's What's Love dropped and everybody went crazy. When they heard Ashanti come through talking about What's Love got to do, got to do with it? What's love? It should be about us. It should be about. Listen. And then she followed it up with the feature on Ja Rule's Always on Time. And for a lot of people, this was the first introduction to Ashanti. This thing was everywhere, man. In the club, at house parties, on the radio. And Ashanti was officially the queen of that commercial hip-hop R&B sound. She made history as the first woman to have 2 joints on the Billboard Hot 100. What's Love was number 2, and Always on Time came in at number 1. The hype was insane. And luckily they could capitalize on that hype because Ashanti was ready. She'd been waiting for this opportunity since she was a little girl. She dropped her solo single Foolish, and it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the Hot R&B and hip hop charts. This joint went global, doing bits in the UK, Canada, Australia. It stayed in the top 10 for 17 weeks, making it the biggest performing single of 2002. She got into the studio and wrote every single one of them songs on her debut album. They called the joint Ashanti. And when it came out, right, the top 10 had artists like Celine Dion, Linkin Park, Pink, Ludacris, and she came in, whooped all of them. She came in at number 1, bro. And listen, it was well deserved because this thing was fire. It had some dope production on it. And what Irv Gotti did brilliantly, right? What he did brilliantly was use the image of Murder Inc. to get Ashanti accepted into the hip-hop culture. She was almost seen as a rapper who could sing. OG saw her as their homeboy's little sister. YNs were looking at her like, hey, yo, shawty a little thick. She a little thick. But at the same time, she was on those mainstream charts outselling pop, rock, and country artists. And you have to remember, right? This was pre-social media days. We now live in an era where an artist can blow up on TikTok, right? Millions of people using their sound in their videos, doing up little dance challenges. But when it comes to them going on tour, nobody shows up because they don't really have a fan base like that. Back in them days, liking an artist meant seeing them on the front cover of a magazine. It meant putting up their poster on your wall. It meant CDs. It meant music videos, behind the scenes videos. It meant TRL, 106 and Park. It meant gossip blogs. It meant watching them on MTV. It meant making their image your background on your phone and desktop. Making their song your ringtone, putting their songs on mixtapes. Being famous then felt more mainstream because people didn't have their own algorithm-driven streaming bubbles. Everybody was listening to the same radio stations, watching the same TV, and Ashanti was everywhere. So, it's summer 2003. The sun is beaming, the air smells like cocoa butter and optimism, and Ashanti's sitting comfortably on her throne as the undisputed queen of hip-hop and R&B. But that's about to change. See, Destiny's Child had been on a little hiatus, which in music industry terms usually means we're letting the lead singer do up a reinvention and cook up a solo career. And that's exactly what Miss Beyoncé Knowles did, bro. She dropped Crazy in Love, and this thing was crazy. The beat alone was like, ah! It had that old school funk energy to it, the loud horns, the hip hop energy. And then Beyonce comes in with that, nah. People went crazy, like, what? Now, the media could have been like, hey, shout out to Beyonce, shout out to Ashanti, 2 black women doing their thing, big up to them. But nah, these mans were moving like it was Highlander. There can only be one, right? The whole thing became Ashanti, the Murder Inc. princess, versus Beyonce, the Destiny's Child golden child. And the media's foolishness actually gets the industry and the fans to start picking sides. Because in July 2003, Beyonce drops her debut solo album, Dangerously in Love. Exactly 1 week later, Ashanti drops her second album, Chapter 2. So, Beyonce's album was number 1, right? And then Ashanti came through and dropped her off the top spot. Crazy to think about it now, knowing who Beyonce is. But for a hot second, Ashanti was out here outselling her, bro. The New York Times even publishes a review boldly titled, "The Solo Beyoncé, She's No Ashanti." Okay. The critic basically goes, Ashanti's formula is effortless and light, while Beyonce is doing too much trying to prove she's a diva. And yo, everybody was picking sides, man. But while Ashanti won that opening battle, Beyonce was quietly winning the war. See, Ashanti's style was heavily tied to the Murder Inc. formula, a sweet, soulful hook layered over a rugged hip hop beat. It was perfect for the radio, perfect for the streets. But Beyonce, she was being packaged and marketed as a global superstar, the next mainstream pop queen. She had the crazy choreography, the massive vocal runs, and a crossover appeal that reached far outside the urban charts. She was moving beyond the streets. And then the industry began to shift towards Beyonce. The gatekeepers, the big brand endorsements, and the prime award show slots, they started going to Beyonce. And while she was out here fighting for her life on the Billboard charts, her home team, Murder Inc., was about to get entirely dismantled by a chart-topping, bulletproof menace from Jamaica, Queens, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. Now, the beef between 50 and Ja Rule wasn't new. They'd been trading punches, chain snatches, and actual scraps since 1999. But in early 2003, 50 drops Get Rich or Die Trying. And this wasn't just an album, it was a moment. It was a cultural hurricane. And 50 used this momentum to come at Ja Rule on a disrespectful level. He didn't just want to outsell Ja Rule, he wanted to completely erase him from pop culture, to end his career. And here's where the problem starts for our girl Ashanti. What 50 did was really clever, right? He went, hey, Ja Rule is a wankster, a fake gangster who makes soft, emotional songs for the radio. 50 would jump on every mixtape and go, real street dudes don't want to hear a man singing duets on a beach in a half-open linen shirt. And of course, the thing powering Ja Rule's massive radio dominance was the blend of R&B and hip-hop, Ashanti's hooks. So 50 was looking at joints like Always on Time, he was looking at the formula that made Murder Inc. millions of dollars, and he was calling it soft, too pop, uncool. And the more he said it, the more peeps started believing it. They started thinking that listening to Murder Inc. was cringe, it made you soft. If you were a teenager in 2003, you couldn't be caught dead bumping Ja Rule. You'd get roasted by your homeboys. And because Ashanti was the first lady of the label, her brand took a massive hit by association. She was catching them strays. And it was crazy, right? Because Ashanti wasn't in the streets like that. She wasn't on some Cardi B, Nicki Minaj levels. Nah, she didn't do diss songs. She was just a songwriter. She was just a songwriter trying to do her thing. But yo, 50 Cent dragged her directly into the mud, okay? Ashanti was literally out here catching strays for a street war that she had absolutely nothing to do with. The culture, it shifted. 50 Cent, G-Unit, Eminem, D12, Dr. Dre, Shady Aftermath, they were the new faces of the mainstream gangster hip-hop wave. So, the street cred that Murder Inc. brought to Ashanti's music, it was now under attack. The label's energy is entirely sucked into this beef. Ashanti's third album, Concrete Rose, it still had bangers on it. It did. The lead single of this thing was Only You. Fire! It was gritty. It was experimenting with this alternative rock vibe, heavy guitars. It didn't sound like anything she dropped before, and it did bits internationally, coming in at #2 in the UK. Murder Inc. was fighting for its life. On top of the whole 50 Cent beef, they were now also dealing with the feds, bro. The FBI raided their offices, and this led to Def Jam, who handled Murder Inc.'s distribution, to freeze up Ashanti's marketing budget. Homegirl had to pay for the music video for a single with her own money. The album, it still managed to move 254,000 copies in its first week, and it did go platinum, because there was still a fan base there that genuinely loved Ashanti. But compared to her previous joints, it wasn't looking too good. So Ashanti assessed the situation, right? She looked around, The label's on fire. The feds are outside. 50 Cent won't stop talking. She basically goes, you know what? Let me go act. If the music industry didn't want to back her, she was gonna get the film industry to rock with her. In 2005, she lands her first major acting gig in Coach Carter.
I play Kira, which is a girlfriend to one of the star basketball players.
Look, me and Coach been talking. He thinks I can play college ball.
All right,
So how I'm gonna do that and raise a baby?
he's caught between staying with me or going to live out his dream, and we have some other unfinished business to take care of. So what are you saying? You want out?
And yo, she's actually firing this. She did up real emotion. Did a lot with what she was given. And yo, the movie hits #1 at the box office, pulling in over 24 million in its opening weekend. Then she doubles down. In 2006, she does a big mid-2000s teen comedy vibes in That John Tucker joint. Seeing Ashanti on a big screen in a glossy, mainstream Hollywood teen flick, it was a massive moment. It proved that her appeal wasn't just regional, and it wasn't just tied to the hood chick image Irv Gotti built for her in Murder, Inc. She had genuine, undeniable crossover appeal. And she didn't stop at teen comedies. By 2007, she jumps right into the apocalyptic wasteland, playing Nurse Betty in Resident Evil Extinction. In 2008, Ashanti revisits the music, and she comes into it tired, okay? Fed up and tired. Tired of the whole 50 Cent madness. Tired of the feds. Tired of Irv Gotti. Because yes, Homeboy played a massive role in helping her get successful, but according to Ashanti, he made things complicated and weird. He manipulated her. And yo, he went on to tell anybody that would listen that they were in a romantic relationship on the low, like he was smashing on the low. He was like, yeah, I was hitting that, okay? That song, Happy, that was all about how happy we was, okay? So, 2008, Ashanti enters the studio, records her 4th album, and she names the joint exactly what it is, The Declaration. The project marked a departure from the old Murder, Inc. formula. Ashanti wasn't just relying on Irv Gotti to hand her a beat and tell her to write a hook. She stepped outside the circle. She linked up with heavyweights like Babyface, Akon, and Jermaine Dupri. The lead single was The Way That I Love You. And yo, this wasn't the breezy thug love Ashanti of 2002. This was a grown, vengeful woman.
After all this time that we tried, I found out we were living a lie. And after all of this love that we made, I know now you don't love me the same.
Good, you know, the single didn't do that good compared to her previous stuff. But yo, it hit the top 20 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it went to #2 on the R&B charts. And then in 2009, she walked away. She was like, yo, I'm done. I'm outie, okay? Major labels hit her up with contracts. They knew there was still something about Ashanti, something they could sell. She received offers from 7 different major record labels. But when she looked at the fine print, she was like, nah. Because what they were trying to do was they were trying to slide her into horrible deals where they take a percentage of the touring, the merch, the acting. Ashanti was like, nah, I'm good. She did up at Miles Morales talking about, I'ma do my own thing. And she founded her own record label, called it Written Entertainment. She became the CEO, the artist, the boss. When she dropped her next album, Braveheart, in 2014, she funded the entire thing out of her own pocket. No gatekeepers, no label bosses trying to tell her how to dress, how to package herself, and most importantly, nobody taking a cut out of her hard work. The album went straight to #1 on the Billboard Independent Albums chart. Hey yo, Ashanti basically did up at Taylor Swift, because every time you streamed one of her songs on Spotify, she got crumbs, while the label, they got the majority. So she went back into the studio, re-recorded her entire debut album completely independently. So now when Hollywood movies or commercial brands want to license her classic hits, they have to come directly to CEO Ashanti. That's boss moves right there, okay? Alright, so remember at the beginning of this video, right? We were in 2002, you time traveled, and you and your homie, you had like a will they, won't they thing going on, remember? Sometimes it be like that, right? Like you meet somebody and the timing's just blah, right? Like everything about the two of you makes sense except Life's just lifing. One of you's busy, the other's traveling, one of you ain't emotionally ready, the other one's still figuring themselves out. You keep crossing paths, but the universe keeps saying, nah, not yet. Funny enough, that's kind of what happened with Ashanti. See, back in 2003, at the absolute peak of her career, when she was everywhere, radio, MTV, BET, magazine covers, award shows, she met another artist who was absolutely doing bits himself, Nelly, okay? Now, if you were outside in the early 2000s, you know Nelly wasn't just another rapper. Homeboy had Hot in Here, Dilemma, Ride With Me, them Air Force Ones, the Band-Aid on the cheek. Dude was him. The two of them met backstage at a Grammy event, and apparently it wasn't exactly love at first sight. Ashanti's told the story a few times. Like, Nelly tried introducing himself. She kind of brushed him off, like, yeah, whatever. Basically gave him one of them, yeah, cool, and kept it moving. Eventually, though, they get to know each other properly. The jokes start landing, the conversations get longer, one date becomes another becomes another, and before you know it, hip hop and R&B's golden couple arrived. And yo, people love these two together. It just made sense. But life isn't always that simple. And after nearly a decade together, the relationship comes to an end. No massive public screaming matches, no diss tracks, no reality TV nonsense, just life. Sometimes two good people meet at the wrong time, and that's okay. But then years go by. Ashanti keeps building, she keeps acting, keeps touring, starts her own label, becomes her own boss. Nelly keeps doing his thing, building businesses, raising his family, growing up. Then almost 20 years after they first met, life brings them back together. Not as the 20-somethings chasing charts, but as two grown people who'd actually lived a little. And sometimes that's the version of you your soulmate was waiting for. The timing was finally right. They rekindled their relationship, got married, started a family together. And bro, I actually love that for her. I ain't gonna hold you. Because after everything we've seen, right, the label drama, the comparisons, the rap beef, the FBI raids, the industry politics, it could have been easy to end this documentary talking about album sales, right? Chart positions, streaming numbers. But I don't actually think that's the ending Ashanti earned. See, winning isn't always staying number one forever. Sometimes winning is surviving long enough to build a life that actually makes you happy. Owning your music, owning your business, owning your story, finding somebody who loves you for who you are. And when I look at Ashanti today, that's what I see. Not somebody who disappeared, not somebody who got replaced. I see somebody who lived through one of the craziest eras in music and came out the other side, still standing, still smiling, still touring, still creating, still looking beautiful, still getting her flowers. Hey, remember when we woke up back in 2002? Remember how no matter where we went, the radio, MTV, BET, the same voice kept following us. Turns out we weren't imagining it. For a moment in time, Ashanti really was everywhere. She wasn't just making hits, she was helping define what the early 2000s sounded like. And that's a legacy nobody can take away. So, from all of us here, give them their flowers. Ashanti, these flowers are for you.